Good morning, everybody. Can everyone hear me okay? Good, good. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to join you here today, and thank you very much for your patience in me speaking in English. I think you'll understand a lot better than if I tried in Hebrew. So today I just want to give you a bit of an understanding about how Heidelberg Cement, a big international company, incorporates biodiversity into both its working ethos down to practice on the ground. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to the company for those of you who are not aware, and then I'll talk a little bit about how biodiversity fits into our strategy, the type of people that Heidelberg Cement employs to deal with biodiversity, what the approach of the company is in terms of the strategy, and then a couple of case examples. So a quick overview about Heidelberg Cement. It's really quite a big organisation. It started 140 years ago with a family-based company run out of Heidelberg in Germany. And over the years it has grown quite impressively. Currently we're standing at about 60,000 employees across the world, and our cement capacity, we have lines in both cement and aggregates. Our cement capacity is 197 million tonnes per year, and our aggregate reserves is about 19 billion tonnes. So it's a pretty big organisation. We're currently number 1 in the world for aggregates and number 3 for ready-mix concrete, and we're just falling slightly behind Lafarge Holcim, being number 2 in cement. So this is a map of where we're present in the world. We've recently acquired another cement company called Italcementi, an Italian-based company, hence the slightly different colours on the map. But we're current in about 60 countries in just over 3,000 locations in terms of all our sites. So we have a very wide-ranging reach. So why biodiversity? We're a cement company. We deal with digging material out of the ground. Why would biodiversity be of any interest to such a company? Well, 2 reasons. Firstly, it makes business sense. And secondly, it makes biodiversity sense. It really is a win-win situation. So let's dive a little bit deeper into why. So in terms of business sense, for license to operate, so when we want to put in a new permit for an extension or for a new site, the authorities very much look at our record. How have we performed in the past? What benefits have we provided society? And biodiversity can be a really good way of showing that we're a responsible company. Reduction of risks and liabilities. Species are becoming more and more protected as populations decrease. And we can get into a lot of trouble if we accidentally damage some protected species and habitats. And boy, are we watched. We're not the favoured development across the world, and our neighbours do keep a close eye on what we're doing, in particular NGOs. So if we do end up in the most unfortunate incident where we damage a protected habitat or species, then it very quickly gets back to the authorities and all our operations can stop overnight, creating huge loss to the company. So it's very important that we're aware of what is on our sites if we come into these conflicts, and therefore a good knowledge of our biodiversity is just crucial to the maintenance of our operation. Okay, where was I? So biodiversity making business sense. So it very much raises the reputation of the company. We have the ability to do some really good things for biodiversity, which we can then publicise, which is taken very well by both the community and also by the authorities and decision makers. We also have the option through dealing with biodiversity to create strong partnerships with NGOs. As has been already showcased with the work that Hansen Israel is doing with SPNI. And this is something that we can replicate across the world. It can also lead to shorter and less contentious permitting cycles. There are a number of examples from across the world where having a good track record in biodiversity management and promotion has created such great relationships with both the authorities and also NGOs, that when we've put in applications for new sites, it's actually been met with glee, with pleasure, excitement, positivity, which is something that hasn't historically always been the case. There's also the finance world. So you'll have seen already some slides on the Convention for Biological Diversity and the trouble that nature's in. And the conservation community is increasingly turning to business and also the finance sector to be more responsible in how they deal with biodiversity. There are some finance organisations now that will only invest in projects that actually boost biodiversity. This is a major mind shift. In order to keep favour with our investors and also our shareholders, we need to show that we're doing something positive in a world where biodiversity really is in crisis. It also makes biodiversity sense. As you've already seen, biodiversity is in trouble. It's not a new phase. Biodiversity has been in trouble really for the last few decades, and things are only getting worse as populations increase and we go through greater habitat fragmentation and destruction. However, the minerals industry has an amazing opportunity to create new habitat following the extraction. So post-extraction, we can start with a blank canvas and we can really start to create something new to turn around these population declines. It's also a really good way to combine nature and people. There's increasing mental health issues across the globe, and it's been proven scientifically that getting people out into nature can really help improve mental health. Also timescales. Some of our big cement quarries, they're quite like dinosaurs. They're old and they go on forever, so therefore it's difficult to get nature wins. But certainly some of our aggregate sites go through in about 10 years, so we can very quickly put back some nature in the vicinity. So back to Heidelberg Cement in particular. So it's been understood that biodiversity is important for the reasons that I've just been mentioning, so much so that it's been incorporated into our sustainability strategy. Our sustainability strategy includes health and safety as a #1 priority, but on the environmental side there are five main pillars, of which biodiversity now forms one of those pillars, which is quite revolutionary in the business world. In terms of our biodiversity management and promotion, we very much encourage the enhancement through restoration post-extraction, but also looking at our land holdings at a greater view and see how we can increase during operations, but also through our more urban sites. We also promote protecting nature and the environment and talking with our neighbours, whether they be communities, NGOs or planning authorities. Through this strategy, we have 2 key performance indicators that we measure on a yearly basis. And this is around the number of sites with restoration plans, rehabilitation plans, and also looking at determining which sites are in very crucial areas for biodiversity, and putting in place biodiversity management plans to make sure that we're suitably analysing the risk of our operations to biodiversity and putting in measures to mitigate for that risk. So a little bit of history of biodiversity in Heidelberg Cement. This was quite a learning exercise for me. I'm relatively new to the company, so it was quite interesting to look back at how long biodiversity has actually been incorporated into the company. So it all started back in the year 2000, when the German subsidiary company realised that increasing time and money was being lost through issues related to biodiversity. Firstly, through permit procedures, so these were becoming lengthy and expensive due to the number of protected species that were being found on site. And also in terms of the after-use plans, these seem to be getting increasingly expensive. So they hired an ecologist to help the operations deal with these 2 problems. This proved so successful in terms of having a proper understanding about species ecology and therefore doing the appropriate survey work and mitigation that permit procedures sped up. They were also able to input into rehabilitation plans using cheaper techniques such as natural regeneration. You don't have to plant trees everywhere. You can let nature do its thing. And this showed that there were severe cost savings to be won through having this ecologist on board, that they hired a second ecologist in 2006. In 2008, as the agenda of sustainability started to gather speed across the world, a whole new department was created, which was the Global Environmental Department. And this was really pushed from our CEO, a quote from him here: "The protection of species diversity and the sustainable extraction of raw materials are fundamental pillars of our sustainability strategy." So the idea of biodiversity was very much pushed through the company by our CEO, really quite a key thing. So in 2008, as part of this new department, a biodiversity manager was appointed to work at a global scale, looking at our strategy and how we can support the subsidiaries across the world. In 2010, a biodiversity expert group was set up. It soon became clear that although we were slightly lacking at a group level, some of the individual countries had already started to think about how they could manage their biodiversity better and started to bring in specialist staff. So this group was set up so that all those biodiversity interested people could come together and share knowledge and transfer expertise. In 2011, we started a partnership with BirdLife International, and I will come back to that a little bit later. In 2015, realising that there was so much work to do with biodiversity and such a big world to conquer, the Global Environmental Sustainability Department saw great worth in employing a second ecologist. So, an ecologist in a company. This is a little bit different. So I was just going to give a little background to the two ecologists that are currently employed within our sustainability department. So this is me. You've already heard a little bit about my past, but I am an ecologist by training. I got addicted to studying, so I spent 8 years completing various different degrees at different levels on ecology. And then I moved into the consultancy world. So I dealt mostly with housing and retail development, looking at mainly about mitigating risk during the permit procedure. I then had the fun move of changing to an NGO. So started academia, moved to consultancy, and then into an NGO. And this NGO, which is the SPNI equivalent in the United Kingdom, they work very closely with the minerals industry across England, trying to promote biodiversity within their operations. And my partner in crime, Dido Goss, she's also an ecologist by training. Whereas I have a little bit more of a strategic theoretical knowledge, Dido brings some really good field survey knowledge to the group, and also has great experience in training and giving biodiversity teaching, which is quite crucial when you've got such a big company. So that's the two of us that are hired inside Heidelberg Cement. If I cast your minds back to the opening slide, we have 60,000 employees. We have 2 ecologists. Just going to nip through to this one. So we're a rare species. I wouldn't say we're threatened, and I would say our prospects are good, but we are a rare species. And it's really encouraging to hear that even though we're rare, we're not alone. And a number of companies are now looking at hiring in this expertise to help them deal with their biodiversity issues and help promote it within the company. This picture was taken, I just wanted to talk you through this picture. It was taken in Estonia, and I was out on a visit with a number of quarry staff. And we got out of the car, and we were on the edge of the extraction site. We got out of the car, and all the quarry ladies and gentlemen got out of the car, and the first thing they did was look over this big expanse of extraction, big hole in the ground. And suddenly they realised I was missing. And they was like, where's Carolyn gone? And they found me with my head in this pond. And I think this just sums up the differences in species that business and ecologists sometimes are. They didn't quite understand how I was not impressed by the big hole and that I wanted to put my face in mud. But it had a great ending. I got them very excited about all the life that was in the pond. They just saw it as a bit of an area of water that wasn't of much significance. But I was able to show them that actually they had some really important species living in that pond, and it created a whole habitat of wonderful different variety that they could be really proud to have on their sites. So sometimes the language between ecology and business is a little bit different. Potentially the clothes we wear are a little bit different. The business worlds are often suited and booted, and you find us with walking trousers, walking boots, and a bit of a muddy shirt on. But I think it's really important that we can bridge this gap. And certainly a big part of my role in Heidelberg Cement is to bridge that gap between business and biodiversity and make a common language. The nature conservation world often speaks quite a foreign language. They don't quite understand the business etiquette, but this is very much improving, and I very much see my role as bringing those together. Okay. So quickly, how we approach biodiversity. So we have a global policy with the KPIs that I've also gone through. I've already told you about the lack of ecologists or the scarcity of ecologists in the company, but we're here to support operations, and we have our team of experts, as I've already said, that are across the group that we can share best practice and empower to spread the word within the company. There's a huge range of awareness and understanding of biodiversity in the company, so a lot of our time is spent training, whether that's training to non-experts. We hold courses that people can come on to learn the basics about biodiversity, up to more specialised training for our more enabled colleagues, bringing in university lecturers and NGOs to boost their knowledge. We have a research competition, the Quarry Life Award, and this is a great way of getting researchers into our sites. So across the world we hold a biannual competition where we invite universities and NGOs to come into our site and do research and experiments to see what exactly are in our sites and how can we improve what we do to improve the prospects of those species. At a national level, some of our countries have their own biodiversity policies, which are working out really well. And at a site level, I've already mentioned the biodiversity management plans. So I'll quickly mention our partnership with BirdLife. So it was rapidly realised that while we had these two positions in place, we struggled to reach everybody. And so in 2011, we entered a partnership with BirdLife International. This enabled us to reach all the BirdLife partners across the world, of which there are about 150. So in pretty much all the countries that we work in, there's a BirdLife partner that we can tap into their expertise and give us local knowledge about what biodiversity might be on our sites and how we can help it. And through this, we're working proactively to manage and promote biodiversity and setting up different projects across the world to boost biodiversity. Communication is a big thing. Business often are really good at doing things, but not always good about talking about things, particularly in my sector. We kind of hide our light a bit. We don't promote what we're doing. So BirdLife International is helping us with this, and we've created a new map which details all the different projects that we're doing with the BirdLife partners. So I'll just take you through a couple of projects that are ongoing in the company. Biodiversity is often a little bit gloomy and a bit sad. We're always talking about declines and destruction and how it's all a little bit negative, but there's a lot of positivity and we can do more positivity. So I just wanted to end on a positive note. So this is a tree nursery that we have in our operation in Togo. As part of the post-mining plan, we were required to plant 1,250 hectares of trees. As you can imagine, this could be incredibly expensive. So we were looking at trying to find a cost-effective way of creating so much new woodland. Also, we had a slight issue with the community in the fact that firewood is very rare. And so if we planted trees, the high probability would be that the community would come in and immediately chop them down for firewood. So it was a real social issue to solve at the same time. So what we did, we set up the tree nursery. And what we've done is we've very much brought in the community with that. So we're hiring people from the local community to run the tree nursery. We're running education programs. We've got a centre of entrepreneurship so that we can work with community to look at new forms of income for them so that they don't feel that they have to chop down all the trees. And we've already planted 12.5 hectares in the first year of having this project up and running. And not only are we planting in our own estate, but we're also planting in local schools to, again, increase the education of children as to the importance of these trees in particular and nature as a wider topic. And it's also very important in these countries as a form of shade. We need these trees to be able to protect the children during the day. And my last case study is about a site in the UK. This is one of our biggest aggregate extraction sites. It reaches over 700 hectares. And this bird in the middle is the Eurasian bittern. And in the UK, this went through a big decline, so that in the 80s, we only had 10 breeding pairs left in the country. They do occur across wider Europe, but in the country, it was just 10. So working with the planning authorities and with the conservation NGO, a new master plan was created for the site to introduce a priority habitat reed bed. The restoration is already underway. They've already created a number of blocks of reed bed. And I'm very happy to announce this is really how business can help biodiversity. Last year, breeding bird surveys were done at the site, and it was found that 10 breeding pairs were present on the site alone. So the population in 1980 now occurs just on our one site. And I think that represents about 10% of the UK population now. So again, it really shows the benefits that we can provide. And on that note, I will thank you and open any questions.